Okay, this is the third page for the Chapter 5 review. It wants us to describe the transformation of function f represented by g, and then graph both of the functions and list the domain and range of function g. Well, if you look at both f of x's here, oops, not letting me write. This one and this one, those are the parent functions, okay? So it has the parent square root function and parent cube root function. And we can go ahead and just graph those to start with. So my parent function of square root of x, I told my students to find points that we can take square roots of. We cannot take a square root of a negative, so let's start with 0. Square root of 0 is 0. Square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of 9 is 3. So we list perfect squares in the x value, and we find the y value, and I plot those. And there's my parent function f of x. All right, it wants me to list the transformations that happen from that parent function to get to g, to get to my new function here. So in the front of g, of function g, I have a negative. That tells me I have a reflection. It has a 2, which that is greater than 1, so it's going to have a stretch, if I can write, stretch of factor of 2. Then it has a 1 inside here with x, and that tells us it's a plus 1, so it's going to go left 1. And then tacked onto the end all by itself, not under the square root, is a plus 2, and that just tells me I'm going to go up 2. So to graph g of x, instead of at 0, 0, I said I'm going to go left 1, up 2. Now you can just plot points in to your equation and get a new table and plot them that way. But what I told my students to do was, okay, for the parent function, we started at 0, 0. Well, this new point where I went left 1, up 2, that's going to become my 0, 0, okay? And then I figure out my y values by taking what was in front, which was negative 2, and I multiply the y values of the parent function by negative 2. So this y value would become a negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So then I plot these points from my new 0, 0, which was right here. Okay? So from that point, I'm going to go right 1, down 2. From that new 0, 0, I'm going to go right 4, down 2. And I go right 9, down 6. So this one, my g of x, is right there. Now this one's the domain and range of g of x. Okay, so my domain, it looks to me like it's going to start at negative 1 and go forever to the right. And that range, it's starting from the bottom, that's where the arrow is, so it's negative infinity, and it goes up to 2. All right, so this next one is a cube root function. Whoops. I don't know what happened there. Sorry. And so if I graph the parent function, the points that I can take nice, pretty cube roots of and get whole numbers, I can take a cube root of negative 8 and get negative 2, negative 1 and negative 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and then 8 and 2. Okay. So if I plot those, negative 8, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 8, 2. So here is the parent function. Okay, so this is f of x. And we want to list the transformations of what happens to that parent function to give me g of x. So it has a 1/2 out front. Now that is between 0 and 1. So it is going to have a vertical shrink with a factor of 1/2. There's nothing grouped inside with my x, so it is not moving left or right, but there's a -1 tacked on to the end. So I know it's going to start off going down 1. Okay, so when I plot g of x or graph g of x, I know I go down 1. So instead of being at 0, 0, I move down to that. So this 0, 0 changed. Okay, I moved it down. And I'm going to multiply those y values by the 1/2 that's out front. So this gives me a -1, -0.5, 0.5, and 1. Okay, so for my new 0, 0, I'm going to go left 8, down 1. I'm going to go left 1, down 1/2. I'm going to go right 1, up 1/2, and then right 8, up 1. So this, sorry, hard to draw here, is g of x. Now, like I said, if you have trouble seeing that, just plug in numbers for x and get your y values that way. And then it wanted the domain. Well, it's going forever left and forever right, so it's -infinity to infinity, or all real numbers. And that range, it still has arrows and is still going up and down forever. It's just doing it rather slowly. So it is still -infinity to infinity. Okay, and that is the Chapter 5 review. Once you finish that, check in with your teacher to see how to retake or take Chapter 5 test.